Hello, everyone. Today, we're diving into a case that shook Singapore to its core, the tragic story of Huang Na. This wasn't just a simple disappearance, it was a mystery filled with strange details that left an entire community in shock. What really happened to Huang Na, who was behind this heartbreaking tragedy? Join me as we uncover each clue and shed light on one of the most haunting cases in Singapore's history. Let's travel back to 2004 to uncover a case that once shook Singapore to its core. Known as one of the safest countries in the world, Singapore, with serene spots like Bukit Timah and Mount Faber, has always been a perfect destination for peaceful outings. Yet, behind this tranquil beauty lies a haunting story. Our main character today is Huang Na, a sweet and well-behaved 8-year-old girl. Her case left the entire nation in shock. Huang Na was born on September 26, 1996, in Fujian, China, into a farming family. Her father had moved to Singapore for work before she was born, which led to a separation and later a divorce between her parents. Her mother, Mrs. Huang Na, remarried and had another daughter. Hoping for a better future, in 2003, Mrs. Tu decided to send Huang Na to Singapore for her education, despite their modest financial situation. The two of them lived in a small room at a wholesale market where Mrs. Tu worked. Huang Na was a well-behaved, optimistic, and intelligent girl who left a positive impression on everyone with her lively personality and sweet smile. Huang Na made friends with Tuk Leng Hao, a vegetable packer at the center. Tuk Leng Hao was born in Malaysia on December 16, 1981. As the second child in a close-knit family of 4, Tuk moved to Singapore at the age of 18 to find better-paying work. At the wholesale center, Tuk, who was married to a Chinese-Indonesian woman and had a son, would often play with Huang Na, buy her snacks, and give her rides on his motorcycle. On October 10, 2004, around 1:30 p.m., 8-year-old Huang Na informed her guardian, Li Tukan, that she wanted to make a phone call to her mother. Since Huang Na was very independent, Li Tukan allowed her to go alone. The phone call between Huang Na and her mother, Huang Shuing, lasted about 6 minutes, during which Huang Na asked her mother to buy an electronic English dictionary and a new pair of shoes. Huang Shuing reminded her to take care of herself until she returned to Singapore, unaware that this would be the last time she would hear her daughter's voice. After the call, Huang Na did not return home, and Li Tukan became worried, searching for her around nearby areas, such as the cafe and school, but could not find her. After some time of searching without results, Li Tukan became worried and decided to report the situation to the police that evening. After Huang Na's disappearance on the afternoon of October 10, 2004, the Singapore police acted swiftly, initiating a widespread investigation. The case shocked the nation, and both law enforcement and the public launched an intensive search. Thousands of Singaporeans, from volunteers to police officers, joined the search effort, combing through various parts of the city and surrounding areas. Major locations like the bustling markets, residential neighborhoods, and construction sites were thoroughly scoured in hopes of finding any sign of the missing 8-year-old girl. In addition to the local efforts, businesses and taxi drivers in Singapore were also mobilized to assist in the search. Taxi drivers were instructed to be on the lookout for any signs of Huang Na and distribute flyers to anyone who might have information. Even people in neighboring Malaysia became involved, as the news of Huang Na's disappearance reached across borders. Various community groups, local businesses, and even retired individuals offered their help by volunteering their time to search and spreading the word. The search was so extensive that the major taxi companies in Singapore, such as ComfortDelGro, engaged all their drivers to assist in the effort. Despite these vast and coordinated efforts, which included the distribution of over 70,000 flyers in a matter of days, the search yielded no results. Huang Na seemed to have disappeared without a trace, and there was no sign of her anywhere. The local media covered the search extensively, keeping the public informed and encouraging more people to join the effort, but all these attempts to locate her proved fruitless. The case remained a mystery for several days, with no leads or breakthroughs. A CAF worker at the Pasir Panjang wholesale market, where Huang Na disappeared, reported seeing her walking alone on the afternoon of October 10, 2004. She was barefoot, dressed in a blue denim jacket and shorts. When the CAF worker asked why she wasn't wearing shoes, Huang Na merely smiled politely and continued walking. Other witnesses at the market also noticed Huang Na that day, but she appeared to be accompanied by a man. This man was later identified as Tuk Leng Hao, a packing worker in his 20s employed at the market. When questioned by the police, Tuk initially claimed he saw Huang Na only once that afternoon. According to him, he had handed her 2 mangoes and advised her to go home. However, his statement changed significantly as the investigation unfolded. Tuk Leng Hao, the last person seen with Huang Na, initially appeared cooperative. He recounted meeting the girl near a cafe at the market, assuming she was playing alone. His act of giving her mangoes and advising her to go home was considered a kind gesture, leaving the police with no immediate reason to suspect him. However, in subsequent interrogations, Tuk changed his story. He claimed that Huang Na had been abducted by a group of people. According to Tuk, this group sought revenge against her mother, Huang Shuiying, due to business conflicts at the market. Tuk even offered to contact the group to negotiate her release. Yet, when pressed for concrete details, Tuk failed to provide any credible evidence or information. As his statements grew increasingly inconsistent, Tuk Leng Hao abruptly fled, elevating him to the status of the primary suspect. The police subsequently issued an international warrant to locate him. Huang Shuiying had always placed her complete trust in Tuk Leng Hao. Therefore, when the police announced their suspicions regarding Tuk Leng Hao and the death of the young girl Huang Na, she was left in shock and disbelief. Could it really be true that Tuk Leng Hao was responsible for this? While the police were searching for him, Tuk Leng Hao's family spoke out in his defense. His father, a fast food vendor in Malaysia, stated that Tuk had called home to assert that he did not kidnap Huang Na. He explained that he fled simply out of fear of pressure from the police. Tuk's brother also defended him, insisting that Tuk was not someone who liked to cause trouble or engage in criminal behavior. His wife mentioned that Tuk had contacted the family, affirming his innocence and expressing a desire to clarify the situation. Nevertheless, the family's justifications did little to alleviate public suspicion. Under the advice of his father, after 10 days of hiding, Tuk Leng Hao decided to turn himself in to clarify everything. On October 30, Tuk Leng Hao unexpectedly turned himself in at Pang, Malaysia. After receiving information from Malaysia, the Singapore police quickly coordinated to extradite Tuk Leng Hao back to the country. In his testimony, he confessed to being involved in the disappearance and death of Huang Na. His statements shocked the public. He recounted that on October 10, he encountered Huang Na while she was walking alone barefoot, looking tired and lost. He claimed that he took Huang Na to meet a group of individuals who had conflicts with her mother, Mrs. Huang Shuiying. According to Tuk, these individuals forced him to participate in the kidnapping, and he felt he could not refuse. Although Tuk insisted that he tried to persuade this group to release Huang Na, all his efforts were in vain. It was only when the police summoned him for questioning that he decided to flee to Malaysia out of sheer fear. Tuk recounted his escape, stating that he fled through the restaurant's back door and crossed the Goodland checkpoint tunnel into Malaysia using a police pass instead of a passport. Fearful of returning home, he sought refuge with friends. While in hiding, Tuk contacted Malaysian media, expressing sympathy for Huang Shuiying and denying any malicious intent toward Huang Na. He emphasized that he cared for her, likening her to his own children, and urged the public to wait for the truth to emerge. Following advice from his father, Tuk ultimately surrendered, bringing an end to his brief but dramatic evasion. On the morning of October 31, he led an investigation team of 20 people to Mayo Faber Park, pointing up a slope and saying that the girl was right there. After 30 minutes of searching, police detected a foul odor coming from a dry bush and discovered an industrial container sealed with tape. This container was quite large, measuring approximately 50 km in length, 40 km in width, and 30 km in height. When opened, it revealed the body of a young girl in an advanced state of decomposition. Although her face was unrecognizable, Huang Shuiying could still identify her daughter by her black hair and slightly protruding teeth. Subsequent DNA testing confirmed that the remains belonged to Huang Na, who had been missing for 3 weeks. The autopsy report indicated that the cause of death was acute asphyxiation, likely due to a foreign object blocking her mouth and nose. There were 5 suspicious wounds around her mouth that appeared to have been inflicted by another person's hand. Tuk Leng Hao was charged with murder. In his testimony, he claimed it was merely an accident. After Huang Na finished her phone call, he took her to a storage room to play a game where they tied each other up. To increase the difficulty of the game, he bound Huang Na's hands and feet and turned off the lights so she could try to free herself. Suddenly, I heard a loud noise coming from the room. I quickly turned on the light and saw Huang Na lying motionless on the floor, blood coming from her mouth and her body convulsing. She may have hit her head on a hard object nearby. At that moment, I remembered a scene from a movie where someone uses the heel of their hand to strike the back of the neck to knock someone unconscious, and they would eventually wake up. So, I struck Huang Na's neck 3 times with the heel of my hand. However, she still didn't wake up. I became worried and kicked her a few more times, but it seemed like Huang Na couldn't survive. In a panic, I tore her clothes and used my hand to touch her sensitive area to create the appearance of an assault, hoping to divert suspicion away from me. The police discovered the storage room where Tuk Leng Hao had taken Huang Na. It was located on the 15th floor of the wholesale market, typically used to store vegetables and dried goods. The room, with its curtains always drawn, rarely attracted attention. Upon investigation, authorities found Huang Na's hair and blood, a cigarette butt with Tuk Leng Hao's saliva, a piece of tape bearing his fingerprints, and fibers from both their clothing, indicating this was likely the primary crime scene. On January 11, 2005, the case was brought to trial at the Singapore High Court. Prosecutors had thoroughly prepared, presenting 76 witnesses, numerous pieces of evidence, and a 5-minute video showing Tuk reenacting the crime with a mannequin. Based on these findings, the prosecution refuted Tuk's statements and argued that at around 1:40 p.m. on the day of the incident, he lured Huang Na into the storage room, tied her hands and feet, and assaulted her. He then suffocated her by covering her mouth and nose until she lost consciousness. To ensure she didn't wake up, he kicked her repeatedly before placing her body into a plastic bag, sealing it with 9 layers, and stuffing it into a small carton box. He then taped the box shut. Later, Tuk borrowed a colleague's motorcycle transported the box to Mount Faber Park, and discarded it down a slope. During the trial, despite what seemed like a straightforward case, the trial became complicated due to Tuk's defense team, led by the renowned lawyer S. Anon. Originally from India, Anon had witnessed numerous cases and was deeply committed to taking on challenging ones, such as Huang Na's. In his defense, Anon argued that although Tuk was involved in Huang Na's death, forensic evidence could not conclusively prove he was directly responsible. Marks on Huang Na's body, such as bruises and traces of urine on the floor, could indicate seizures or suffocation caused by vomiting. Furthermore, due to the body's advanced decomposition, it was impossible to confirm the presence of Tuk's DNA or semen on the victim, leaving doubt about whether an assault had occurred. Anon also emphasized that Tuk lacked a clear motive for the crime, as he and Huang Na had previously been close friends. The defense team for Tuk Leng Hao, led by lawyer Anand, invited psychiatrist A. Newell Lennon to strengthen their argument that the defendant suffered from mental illness. Dr. Lennon claimed that Tuk exhibited severe mental disorders, showing no remorse or sorrow over Huang Na's death, which suggested schizophrenia, rendering him incapable of being held accountable for his actions. The psychiatrist identified 3 key symptoms of schizophrenia in Tuk: psychosis, emotional detachment, and delusions. For example, Tuk's claim that 3 or 4 men kidnapped Huang Na was evidence of his delusional thinking. Additionally, his IQ was only 76, which fell into the range of intellectual disability. Tuk's family supported this claim, stating that he often behaved strangely, such as laughing to himself or shouting randomly. Dr. J.N., a mental health expert for the prosecution, refuted these claims. He explained that an IQ of 70 or below is typically required for a diagnosis of intellectual disability, and Tuk's IQ of 76 placed him within the normal range. Furthermore, there was no medical history or evidence to suggest that Tuk suffered from mental illness. Witnesses also noted that his behavior before and after the crime appeared consistent and ordinary. More importantly, Tuk's meticulous approach to the crime demonstrated clarity of mind. He carefully chose a location without surveillance cameras to dispose of the body, meticulously wrapped it in 9 layers of plastic, and executed other actions that displayed deliberate planning and awareness. The court tried and sentenced Tuk Leng Hao to death for the crime of murder. However, his family disagreed with the verdict and submitted a petition for clemency to the President of Singapore, hoping to reduce his sentence. In their petition, they argued that Tuk Leng Hao might deserve leniency and called for public forgiveness. After careful consideration, however, the President of Singapore decided to reject the clemency request and upheld the death sentence. On November 3, 2006, Tuk Leng Hao was executed by hanging at Singapore's prison, bringing an end to one of the most shocking cases in the public's mind. After the case concluded, several controversial stories emerged regarding the life of Huang Na's family, particularly her mother, Huang Shuiying. Some people doubted her care for her daughter and even spread rumors that she had neglected Huang Na while in Singapore, raising questions about her responsibility in the tragedy. However, these rumors became even more complicated when reports surfaced that she had built an expensive villa in her hometown after receiving donations from the public. Huang Shuiying later publicly denied these accusations, asserting that the donated funds were used appropriately. A large portion went toward building a grave for Huang Na, while the remainder was used for charitable activities and supporting the education of her other children. She also explained that the villa was inherited from her husband's family, and the renovation of part of the house was intended so she could have a clear view of Huang Na's grave, fulfilling a personal wish. Although the legal proceedings of the case have concluded, it left a profound impact on the community. Stories surrounding the case, especially suspicions about Huang Shuiying's actions and the fate of Huang Na's family, continue to fuel debates. The public continues to discuss the truth behind this tragedy, and it has become one of the most talked about topics in Singapore society. The case of Huang Na in Singapore remains one of the most tragic and controversial in history. While Tuk Leng Hao was sentenced to death, questions about the circumstances surrounding Huang Na's death and the actions of her mother, Huang Shuiying, continue to spark debate. This case serves as a haunting reminder of the long-lasting impact such tragedies have on everyone involved. We'd love to hear your thoughts on this case. Please share your perspective in the comments below.